The man that goes by only a single name, Vesa. Welcome into the Copilot Studio, mate. It's really good to chat again. So welcome in.
Thank you. Thanks, Daniel, for having me. Really cool to have a chat. Even though it's pretty early on Monday mornings for me, but it's okay.
It is
okay.
early. So, it is early Monday morning for you, late Monday afternoon for me.
Sure.
But mate, again, another person that doesn't need too much of an introduction in your circles. But for those that are watching and listening, tell me a little bit about Vesa, what it is, well, where you've come from to start with. We were just talking off air actually about your consulting stuff, and what it is that you're keeping that's keeping you busy now.
So let's start with the current title, go back and then go back on what I do now. So current title is Principal Product Manager in Microsoft. I'm weirdly based in Finland, but I'm actually in the Redmond organization. So technically I'm a feature PM in the OneDrive SharePoint platform team, but it's complicated. So I never moved into Redmond due to family reasons, to other reasons as well, and it's been played out pretty okay. So I was lucky enough I started at Microsoft in 2006, so it's pretty horrifying. I think we're hitting 18 years this year, and 8 years as a consultant and doing SharePoint consulting. And I got that connection through Jeff Deeper and product group pretty fast. So I was doing training materials and hands-on labs and all of that stuff for the local workshops, and we were able to sell like 50 of them, whatever. And then it's like, well, why not give it away? Sharing is caring, so give it away for the global ecosystem and part PMMs, product managers. And then through that channel, they realized that, hey, okay, so this guy clearly is doing nice material, so let's actually use him for the Ignite, SharePoint Ignite tours and all of that stuff, even though my English was a bit clunky at the time, but all of that is getting better and better. Still it's Finglish, but it's getting better and better. Then I got that connection, and then eventually I got a nicely connected on SharePoint Rangers team, which is kind of the high-end consulting. Whenever any CEO in the world called Jeff Deeper and said that SharePoint is broken, can you send somebody? I was the guy in Europe who was then taking care of the European market, which was a nice way of getting them to know people and also getting that trust, which eventually ended up me being not forced to Redmond. So I was able to actually stay in Finland, because at the time, and still it's a bit of an exception, but nowadays we have people who are working remotely more broadly, and we acquired Norway fast within our side and all of that stuff. So there's developer centers, but it was super weird that somebody was kind of staying 10 hours away from Redmond, because that is a complex thing. And then gradually moving forward, at some point I was asked to join actual SharePoint engineering team. I was first in the customer advisory team, and then SharePoint engineering team, because they were planning to release this really cool thing called SharePoint Framework, which is going to take over the world, and they needed somebody to help them on creating training materials, videos, guidance, all of that stuff, and start driving adoption. And here I am 10 years later, basically on that journey from moving to Redmond, and then I get 8 years maybe in engineering. So.
Yeah. So interesting. So you've obviously you've seen quite a bit in the SharePoint space, and look, we're going to talk about the flavor of the month, Copilot, very, very soon. But
absolutely,
if we touch on SharePoint first. SharePoint, Copilot is obviously the center of everybody's conversations at the moment. But SharePoint is, as I've spoken about with other guests before, really is and is becoming more relevant than ever in terms of workloads and things like that, because pretty much everything lives in SharePoint from a content services perspective.
Sure.
How are you seeing, the importance or the relevance of SharePoint now, also in your role, leading that side of things?
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. So when I joined Microsoft, it was a funny thing. It was really, I just barely got in because I didn't have a SharePoint expertise. I've been working on other stuff, and then they gave me the chance, and here I am. And I'm still worried that they will figure out that I don't have any idea what I'm doing. But it's the imposter syndrome, which is a good thing, because that drives you forward as well. But that's a separate discussion point. But at the time, SharePoint was basically starting to peak. That was 2006, and it's peaked significantly. It was a absolutely multi-billion-dollar business. Partners like you were building extended experience in on-prem to the SharePoint. And then as we moved to the clouds, the SharePoint value went a bit down because we were unable to partners were unable to build experiences, customers. We were, again, this was like 2016, 15 timeframe. Customers were basically forced to use only out-of-the-box features and capabilities, which were great, but again, there was no partner focus as much, except there was an adding model, which wasn't extensibility, because I come from the developer side. And then as we introduced, again, SharePoint Framework, that grew to be a massive ecosystem and incredibly focused. And again, it started a bit going down. The usage of SPFX is still going up. But again, the focus and the relevance, or how people are positioning SharePoint, is it the coolest thing ever? It went a bit down, but now with the Copilot, we're again up. So it's a kind of you always see, when you're long enough in a product or long enough in a company, you see how the pendulum actually works, and how we take the chosen one and then we move to another one, and it moves in cycles. But again, the SharePoint is the fundamental location where the files are, where we have portals, global intranet still a thing, corporate communications is important. People need to reach the people and communicate other ways as well, not just an email. So it's always been around there, and it's always been fundamentally designed for it, and especially the fact that the files are in SharePoint. So if you think about I think I saw the latest number, which I'm not allowed to say, from Jeff's keynote for Orlando, but it's petabytes and petabytes and petabytes and petabytes of files which are in SharePoint and getting added there all the time. So therefore, if the company intelligence and IP is actually in SharePoint, at the age of Copilot, that's what we're talking about. The Copilot and AIs is all about taking access on that information and then analyzing that information and be more efficient and more productively accessing or surfacing the relevant information for the user. And also, if you think about Teams, or if you think about whatever the applications, they're all built on top of SharePoint, because again, Loop is a brilliant example that's stored in SharePoint. SharePoint embedded, actually, which is interesting dimension again on the discussion. But it's one of those fundamental things. And of course, as a SharePoint person from product group, not the creator of SharePoint like Jeff Deeper, having somebody like Jeff around in the long term and pushing the vision has helped a lot. Related on the pendulum, whenever Jeff went away, Jeff was away for a while. Some people might remember this. In Microsoft 365, SharePoint was named as Sites. It wasn't SharePoint. But then Jeff came back and it was renamed again as SharePoint. And then that was the moment when the new SharePoint came back in 2016, 2017. And a lot of focus on options and UX and portals and all of that stuff. And I think we are again on the brink of doing another cycle on that one as we're rolling out new features. But it's funny how it goes. Yeah.
It is. And I guess, and I spoke to Jeff recently, but the change or the uptake the change of SharePoint's perception, moving from SharePoint Classic through to SharePoint Modern. We've had Modern for quite some time now, and obviously with the SPFX development and extensibility side of things, that's obviously enhanced that side of things as well. But there's some features and functionalities that are coming, like the brand center and things like that that we're seeing down the pipeline. That is, I think, is going to again just take SharePoint to another level again. Sure. Now, you're obviously heavily involved in the extensibility side of things with the SPFX framework and that type of thing. Now, with the introduction of Copilot, do you see a lot of that sort of the developer ecosystem or things changing a little bit to the focus, the flavor of the month is Copilot, but things changing to maybe Copilot extensibility and things like that, as opposed to SharePoint stuff?
I think that's interesting. It will be interesting where we will be within 12 or 24 months, because it's really hard to predict how this takes over. So some people are basically saying that UXs, user interfaces, are completely gone. We'll just be in chat. I think we heard this like 5 years ago already with bots. Bots will take and come and take over, and it didn't happen. So it really comes back on I think the end user adaptation and understanding is the maturity level of the product, maturity level of things. And even in Copilot, I think in the Copilot experience, it works better with plugins and it works better with UX and adaptive card and all of that stuff. So people are able to click a button rather than being the system prompt engineers, which you need to study 12 months to able to get anything out of the systems. No, that's not the intention. We need to get it simplified. So we'll probably see, and we see it already with the Teams messaging extension, which is one way of exposing or customizing or bringing your user your company data to the Copilot. We already see the need of the UX elements, so not just feeding the company data to the Copilot, which is important, obviously, because then Copilot can start reasoning on it, and that's the Microsoft Graph connectors and getting the data directly in the Microsoft 365. But then having that UX element in place helps end users, and as we make it easier for end users to use it, not necessarily that they need to be the prompt engineers or developers, but they can click a button and behind of that something smart happens, which is using Copilot and prompt engineering. That then changes the dynamics, and that will definitely mean that, well, obviously, currently it's a Teams messaging extension, and there's work being done significantly related on taking advantage of SPFX ecosystem as well. So not forgetting about, not like I'm not turning the back on the partners and ecosystems who've been bidding on it and then saying, no, now this is the chosen one. Stop doing that, because that would be silly. That's just waste of time and money for building those ecosystems and then turning it back again and saying, that's nonsense, let's go in here. So there's definitely features and capabilities coming for Copilot in SPFX. Right now, I think we'll see more focus on that one in build timeframe. We're recording this in 26th of April, so within a month, we'll see more features and capabilities, and then things start rolling out gradually. Now, Copilot has been G8, I guess, since November 2023, but we are still in a super early cycle with all of the innovation and investments which are coming in Redmond. So we'll see so much more within 12 to 24 months, and it's going to be really interesting. Will it just be stuck on a chat, or, well, is it stuck on a chat? Is the chat the natural thing? Or will we have more UXC elements and adaptive cards and all of those? We can click buttons and activate operations.
Yeah, so we've obviously got lots of different Copilot experiences. I mean, we're not just limited to, let's just say, Copilot. I mean, we've got Copilot in, GitHub Copilot. We've got Word, we've got PowerPoint, Outlook, Teams, for example. Now, if we sort of go down the extensibility path, you mentioned a couple of extensibility points there around plugins and connectors, and then we've got, you started talking about SPFX as well. So what's the difference and what's the use case for each of those? So if we start with plugins, what's a Copilot plugin and what can you do?
I would actually go a bit more even back on, if we think about the Copilot and LLMs, and how the system actually works. So technically, you can imagine the thing in a way that we're analyzing. It's oversimplifying things. It's an incredibly intelligent search. So we have the data in SharePoint or around Microsoft 365. The Copilot is aware of the data, and it's aware of the associations and relevance within the data comparing to other data. So, and that's how it actually does the reasoning. So as we start asking, let's say, information like Vesa is asking about, can you tell me the latest on blah, 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 it will understand that I'm Vesa, I'm actually in that team, I'm sitting in a Redmond organization. So therefore, as it starts querying and getting the information from the Copilot or from the source, it will know that that's the grounding data, as we say, because people don't necessarily always remember what is a grounding. But it's that relevance to that context where the user is. Now, blocking, actually, let's go back on Microsoft Graph Connectors. Microsoft Graph Connectors is one extensibility point for Copilot, which is technically feeding the information to search. Yes, it's an extensibility model for Copilot, but it's not really Copilot extensibility as such. It's more on getting the information directly in Microsoft 365, and that's the Microsoft Graph Connectors. And that is a great way of doing things. And let's say, getting the backend information from your LOB system directly to the Copilot. However, that happens as a scheduled task. It's not a immediate thing. So if you're more interested on asking what is the current, let's say, factory usage percent in this moment, that LLM that's index data. It's static data which is getting refreshed gradually, bit by bit. So the relevant real-time information is not available, and that's where the plugins is basically coming in. So the plugins is the way then getting that relevant current information and making sure that whatever we have in the LLM or in the Copilot, we kind of enrich that information with the relevant current information with the plugins. And that's kind of the difference between the things. So the real-time thing plugins, more like a backend information like files and getting it refreshed with the graph connectors. But again, well, files can be changed anytime as well. So I think where we're heading gradually is the more on we have the corpus, which is the core data structure. And then as we are asking any questions on it, we'll do a lot of grounding and relevant information. These are the files what the person has been recently touched. So therefore, this might be the interesting for the query. And how all of that actually happens, then we go to the rocket science level, which is out of our understanding. So.
And what about that UX component that you're talking about? So how does SPFX fit into all of this?
Now, in the plugins, we're basically having a discussion as adaptive cards. We can have a Teams messaging extension which is exposing adaptive cards, and you can imagine adaptive card being basically UX boxes with buttons or input entries and all of that. And just as well as with the Teams messaging extension, you can absolutely build adaptive cards with SPFX. So now the difference there is actually SPFX has always benefited from the fact that you don't have to host your code. SPFX code is hosted for you. And that makes it super easy for our developers and partners and customers to do something and get it deployed rather than connecting or calling IT and saying, hey, we have this extensibility coming. Can I get an admin rights? No. Okay. Can I give you the package and you'll deploy that to your Azure subscriptions? No. Or, well, yes, but we have a 2-week or 4 months SLA. I need to review the package. And that gets it's complicated. With SPFX, you don't have that complexity because the code is getting automatically hosted. You still have the admin approval and governance, but it's easier to get it deployed. Now, if we then without promising anything too much, combine the Teams messaging extension, which already today you can do with SPFX, and then Copilot and SPFX easy deployment, you can imagine where we're heading gradually with the extensibility options. If there's a demand and if there's interest, obviously if nobody cares about extensibility in Copilot, then maybe we'll not invest it there. That's also one of the dimensions always what we need to consider as a Microsoft. So we're testing things, we're doing proof of concepts, we're doing experiments, and then, that's interesting. People started using that. Okay, let's invest on that area. So
where are we at in that sort of life cycle? Like at the moment, are people starting to see value in these extensibility points that we're talking about here, or are we still sort of in the? I mean, yes, we are still in the infancy of Copilot, obviously, but the value. I mean, what you're talking about there, the value is insane, right? I mean, being able to tap into line of business applications is pretty compelling, I would think.
So. Not again going anywhere on the data and usage details, but we are we're less than 6 months from the GA, and typically any technical, especially development extensibility or platform topic, it will definitely need 12 to 24 to 36 months before it actually comes mainstream. And I think traditionally, even if you've been around on the extensibility side at least. Kind of understand the space. We always had this. Microsoft is again introducing a new development model, a new whatever model, a new. We'll see if this is successful. So before people are willing to invest and bet on money on something, they need to first get a sense of what's the value out of the box. And we are still in that journey. And there's a lot of experiments being done. I think there's a lot of interest. Conceptually, the idea is brilliant. And combining the document data, LOB data to one centralized location. Yes, absolutely. Everybody can see value out of it. How much value? Well, we first need to understand how much value the Copilot is bringing, because that has a cost as well. And then as we start implementing, extending, and modifying that experience, that has a cost. So to be able to understand the return of investment on that, we need more insights. So, but I think,
what about yourself?
Or customers need more insight. We have the insights, but
absolutely.
of course, so
yeah.
And
so, what about yourself personally? How's Copilot? You've probably, like other Microsoft employees, I'd imagine you've been using this for quite some time, probably more than most. How is it helping you personally, and what Copilot experiences are you finding yourself using the most?
I would say 90% of the people, when this question is being asked, they will always say about the Teams meetings, recaps, and everything else. And I don't think there's any exception.
Come on, give me something different.
Now, especially in my case, because I work from Monday to Thursday roughly until 10 to 11 p.m. However, that's noon or 1 p.m. in Redmond. So I miss out a lot of meetings because, I need to sleep. And that the meeting recaps and everything is definitely my primary thing by far, because that's I used to actually watch a lot of recordings afterwards and then 2x speed, but having that option not even to 2x speed or 1.8, which is still understandable, 2x gets to be really tricky. But it's having those summaries is great, and joining meetings late, you can ask, hey, did I miss something? Which is super valuable. As we're building and creating stuff for Orlando right now, I think PowerPoint is surprisingly interesting as well, to start asking questions about, hey, can you give me content around this and this topic, or how would I change or present these kind of elements, or combining information, can you get the information? And I think that coaching element is super important. We just talked about this one before we started recording as well. I work remotely. I don't have any problems of not seeing people on every single day, because I've grown to used to do that. But still, a lot of value comes from the meetings and meeting people and having somebody to throw ideas on. And that the fact that even though I don't have necessarily a person to do that, I can actually throw ideas with a computer, and they're smart answers. So it's not like a stupid, if he says X and Y and Z, then me responds something else. No, they're sophisticated answers based on the data in internet, based on the data what we have inside of Microsoft, and you can kind of throw ideas and collect more information without trying to find the relevant slides, text, and all of that. And that gets a lot of value, at least to inspiration and ideas. And it's like, oh, that's a really good point. Did I thought about that one? Because if you don't have anybody to play with and ideas, then you get stuck on your own bubble. So.
Yeah, that's right. Now, part of your role is, you're heavily involved in, adoption and that side of things with, M365 and SharePoint, and you work with Caruana's team quite closely, but more around sort of the Power Platform Graph, Visual Studio, Teams, and that type of thing. Where do you think, are people struggling with the adoption of this type of, that side of things?
We're still, like I said, for the Copilot, I think we're still in infancy. We still need to wait for the showcase stories to come out. Not that, hey, we integrated the LOB system to the Copilot. It's like, cool. What was the value out of it? So really getting that business value, and that's one of the things which traditionally we as a Microsoft we tend to fail on this quite miserably, which is we focus on technology, and we always been like traditionally MSDN developers, TechNet, ID Pro. I was like, no, this is not how you sell the stuff. You sell the stuff by selling and showcasing the art of possible and telling and explaining the value of what things are coming. Yeah, but we have this plugin in the Copilot. Cool. What does it actually provide? Yeah, it has a UX. Right. No. What does it provide for end users? So what is the value, the business value? And that's the one thing what we're struggling a bit. Right now, we're still in this cycle of focusing on, hey, you can do extensibility here, extensibility here, extensibility here, but not really on that storytelling on the business value. So I think we still need to wait until we get all of those stories sorted out. And of course, marketing is working on things. They will say, I think everybody knows that there was a pretty big marketing reorg recently. That was, I think, in the Verge, where we're shuffling and focusing on Copilot, which is fine. Right now, Copilot is the chosen one, but it's and we'll see then more focus on storytelling on that. But a lot of I'm confident that it's definitely going to be a big part of the extensibility opportunities and partner opportunities and customer opportunities to enhance the Copilot experience with even more relevant data and relevant day-to-day business data. And considering where AI is heading and the value what AI can provide outside of Copilot, if we think about all of the opportunities, what we have also, that these scenarios are super critical for making people more efficient. I think my brother actually.
No, I think that the scenario building and that type of starting point, I think, is resonating with a lot of the people that I speak to as well, rather than saying, yes, we've got this cool whiz bang thing. It's called Copilot. Let's turn it on. And everyone thinks, oh, yeah, that's great. But, you're talking about the meeting recaps and the summaries and things like that. But if I'm a person that's not in meetings a lot, I mean, that doesn't do anything for me. There's no value in that for me. I might be, heavily involved in, let's say it's the marketing team. So I might need to create a 3 email sequence that's going to promote our product, for example. So, that scenario and it's almost like the old what's in it for me type of situation is really valuable. And I think that provides a really successful sort of framework or platform when when organizations are actually rolling out Copilot.
And if we think about the Copilot, I think that one of the key points with the Copilot is, referring to my brother's reference, which was really good. He's not actually in IT, but he's around in the business world and follows up on the technology news and everything else. But it was really good statement, which is that we've been kind of for decades we've been saying that the productivity and business productivity and we're going to increase productivity of users and we're going to make users efficient, which is partly true. So we don't wash dishes at our home anymore. We have a machine still. We don't have maids. At least I don't. I'm not sure if Australia has, but So, but it's basically we are evolving, we are increasing productivity. But in the IT, we've been, especially in Microsoft 365, we've been always like corporate communication, but will that actually increase productivity? So what's the value back? And it's always been the promise of the future that the computers will significantly increase the productivity of the users. And that right now with the Copilot, we're actually heading there, because the intention is not, again, reducing the labor numbers or removing your job or getting you irrelevant. It's more on increasing your productivity. And if we can increase productivity of every single person within a company for 25%, we will increase the value of the company for 25%. And with Copilot, now we can clearly start seeing with statistics and usage details on the values and the time saved or money and time saved is money saved. And that's basically also increasing the productivity of the user, because they have time to spend on other things than banging a head against the wall again, PowerPoint and how to adjust the things. No, you don't have to, because things are getting easier. So, and having that centralized Copilot as a brand and an application as a solution, it's no longer individual application. It's the Microsoft 365 Copilot or the Microsoft Copilot, however we want this position. It's a one Copilot experience which will increase the productivity of everybody. I personally don't like the messaging where we say, now we have 178,000 Copilots. No, from my perspective, we only have one. We have one Microsoft Copilot. We're just surfacing that in a different location. And then there are different experiences where the Copilot is taking your context into account. Is it your working context? Is it your personal context in the Copilot Pro as an example? And then that adjusts based on the use case. Being proud about having 200 Copilots, sorry, I don't think that's confusing. It's like,
it is. Yeah, and I think, I mean, yourself being heavily involved in that user adoption side, I think that's a good message. I mean, yes, we do have, and I saw a slide recently about all the different, a visual of all it represented all the different types of, or all the different co-pilots. It was the slide, but talking about, I think from a communication side, talking about the Copilot experience, not Copilot in Word and PowerPoint, Copilot for this, Copilot for that. It's just Copilot with a different experience, and it's just how you interact with that in that particular instance. Yeah, I think that's a lot better.
And let's face it, we're still, 18 months from the moment when OpenAI came with ChatGPT, with the real, now it actually starts understanding what I'm actually doing. Yeah. That's really cool. It's 18 months. And within this 18 months, we've been releasing a lot of stuff as a Microsoft, and there's a lot of investments around the different organizations in engineering. But now we are truly starting to see all of that getting also inside of Microsoft, being centralized and being based on the same platform, which is great. Yeah. So rather than individual teams building their own AI isolated solutions, they're building on the same technical stack, which makes sense, rather than everybody building their own competing things, and then the experience is different.
Yeah. What are you seeing with what's holding people back, or is anything holding people back from, we hear a lot about, executives and businesses understanding that, this AI, and Copilot does have benefits and is going to help improve, the bottom line of the organization as a whole. What do you think's holding people or businesses back, if any?
I think it's still a change in the human behavior. It's still a cultural thing, and it's also I don't want to change my day-to-day work. I want to do whatever I've been doing in the past. So doing that change management properly on, hey, what about checking what the Copilot is telling you in the morning, and having that mental mindset of testing new things. It's always hard. Whenever somebody comes and says that, well, you need to change your day-to-day work on using this chat thingy here. What? No, I know better. Why would I?
Yeah.
How would the computer know better than I do? Which is, it probably doesn't. But again, it gives you ideas and inspiration, and it gives you insights. And it is incredibly good on technical details and all of that stuff. So having that change on mindsets to be able to use Copilot as your friend and not feeling threatened by the Copilot. I think that's holding back people. And as we start getting that more naturally into day-to-day work, catching up on emails in the morning and kept doing things, or catching up on what's relevant for my day, the previous day, and using Copilot rather than try to collect and get all of the information from multiple different systems. I think that's the mental mindset which we're going through. So it will take a while for us to adapt that. I struggled with that as well. So it's one of those things where, why would I use this thing to this, because I've been doing this for now decades. I know better.
And has it become a habit for you now? Is it just becoming ingrained in your day-to-day work?
It's the I think every single thing in as we're learning new things, we just need to keep on repeating, and challenging ourselves also on learning new things and new habits, and then realizing that, so this is actually making me more efficient. I'm saving time here and there and there. I don't need to do all of the extra work what I did in the past, or it will give me a 90% or 80% version of what I was looking for. So now I can just focus on finalizing and polishing things and getting rid of all of the fancy wording, which the Copilot seems to be getting in as well, but still. So.
And are you talking nicely to your new assistant? Do you say please and thank you?
I do. So I'm a pretty polite person in general, so I can.
Seriously, does it make a difference?
I don't think so. No, because now technically, no, I don't have the facts. So, but again, theoretically,
it makes you feel good anyway.
It will make you feel good, and theoretically it might actually have an impact, because again, all of those words have a impact on what it finds next. So then, therefore, if you're being rude, the text set algorithm will look a bit different than being polite. But again, completely theoretical. So
yeah. Now
it doesn't have feelings. That let's face it. So
yes. No, very true, very true. Now, as we begin to wrap things up, I've started to ask people that come into the studio here, ask them what is a question. Now, I asked you this prior to coming on. So, what is a question that hasn't been asked of you that you think you should? Now, you speak to a lot of people. You're on a lot of stages. Now, the question that you came back with was, so I'm going to ask this question back to you.
Sure.
Do you really think that Microsoft 365 as a platform as a whole is one that partners and customers should be betting on around as an extensibility platform?
Yep, and this comes, so typically I'm a pretty open person. I will always answer when somebody asks me a question. So there's no secrets on anything. And I try to educate people on, even though they're not asking the right question, I might actually ask the question by myself. So I'm just for the sake of, asking so that people know. But in this particular case, I think we've seen this evolution of Microsoft 365. We as a Microsoft, we've been starting to roll out individual, SharePoint admin management systems and all of governance tooling, all of that stuff. And then the question is, well, if the out-of-the-box features are getting more mature and better and better and better, is there an opportunity still for partners and extensibility or customers need to extend things, which is fair. You should always evaluate what is the return of investment. So if we do an X and Y and Z, does it actually bring back the value? I've been in a multi-million-dollar intranet projects way back. That doesn't happen anymore. So the business has evolved and business changed, and of course economical situations has moved, and that always have an impact. But in the end, if you think about Microsoft 365, it is a incredible platform as long as we as a Microsoft keep on investing on APIs and extensibility options to partners build and enhance the platform. The thing which, quite frankly, even internally, we every now and then are having debates on it, and we need to educate the newer PMs and feature owners that, hey, so there is a massive opportunity for you if you will provide an extensibility option for your capability, or if you will provide an API, because the value for PMs, and I'm first telling this for PMs and then for the partners, but even internally, we need to kind of sell this idea for new people that if you have an API, then the partners and customers are your friends, and they will basically amplify your feature because they can modify that based on their business requirements. And the partners will sell products on top of the feature. So therefore, they will go all through the world and basically say, this feature is cool. Why is it cool? Well, because we have even extended that and make it even better. And that's a really hard thing for people to understand. If they come from a business to consumer side thinking, not business to business, or they don't have that expertise of understanding what the extensibility can provide. It's a really hard thing to explain internally, or well, it's not a hard thing to explain, hard thing to understand necessarily if you don't have the context. But then for the partners, there's a massive opportunities, obviously, on all of the new things what we're rolling out, like Copilot. We have extensibility platform. We're really truly committed on building those things. We are rolling out new SharePoint portals, and Viva Connection is evolving as a partner opportunities all the time. And initially, they might not be super flexible, and it might be super cool, but as we get the maturity level better, then there's a lot of opportunities to plug in extensibility and enhance, again, the out-of-the-box features. The value comes, again, from the partner ecosystem. There's tens of thousands of partners. Microsoft has relatively limited set of engineers on building features. So there's so much inspiration or ideas and great capabilities what we can now build on top of the platform without worrying building the UX and authentication and governance and all of that stuff. So there's a lot of opportunities. I think SharePoint Embedded is a really good example. Again, a bit of a different dimension, but again, it provides significant amount of value with the governance and legal holds and all of that stuff for the data, even though it doesn't have a UX. which is incredibly complicated, clearly for people to kind of grasp on.
Mm.
I'm going to migrate to SharePoint Online, and I'm going to migrate to SharePoint Embedded. And no, you don't. Why would you do that? Well, so, but I think we as a Microsoft, we need to keep on still doing a better job on explaining those opportunities. And again, coming back on that storytelling, not just focus on here's an extensibility point, here's an extensibility point, here's an extensibility point. Rather, focus on that scenarios and what you can build with that, what you can package, what you can automate, and what the partners can provide for customers, and therefore what customers can acquire from partners and benefit out of, even though they're not out-of-the-box features, they're extensibility built on top of the baseline.
Yeah. Actually, I've got what you raised a topic there, so I've got one last question for you before we wrap things up. You mentioned Viva Connections there. Now, Viva as a platform or as a whole or as a suite of applications was the flavor of the month last year. It's Copilot this year. You mentioned Viva Connections there. What's the value or what's the outcome that Viva Connections provides organizations, and are you seeing the uptake of Viva Connections as well?
Now, we talked about earlier in this podcast also the timelines, so 12 to 18 to 24 months and 36 months, and with Viva Connection, I think Viva all up, I wasn't, how would I say this in a politically correct way, I wasn't super happy on the marketing way how we approached the Microsoft Viva as we rolled it out a few years back in February. There was a lot of interesting. That was first time probably we focused more on the business value, but it was super flaky. It wasn't really like, okay, so what does it then mean? It's an employee experience platform. Okay, cool. What does it mean? And that's when the questions kind of stopped. We never actually really truly then explained all of the different options and capabilities and all of that. And Viva Connection, for me, is a great example of the things. It's been evolving significantly since it was released, and I love the mental mindset of being able to use whatever device and being able to easily access the relevant application and tasks within your day-to-day work. And the reason why I'm taking my phone here is it's just briefly demonstrating this because it's pretty easy to do. It always takes a while for adapt new capabilities and adapt new options, but I've started using Viva Connection personally quite significantly as well, because it gives me the option of not trying to remember which application, where it is, all of the tooling. How can I request a free day for tomorrow or whatever? No, I'll go to Viva Connection. And all of my relevant applications are in a single thing. I can click a button, it will show me the relevant task, the most common task for that application, rather than I need to go to that application. And I can access that easily from my couch with my phone. And that is a significant thing, even for me as an information worker, but more importantly for the frontline workers who we need to get, let's face it, companies struggle on getting the frontline workers connected to the company. And if you're not connected to the company, you're not committed to the company, and you don't know what's happening. Having a easily and well-designed communication channel which works in any device, regardless of the device size, and they can, within the teams, which is still the way of communicating inside of the company, there's a lot of value within that. And especially with the latest features and capabilities which are in the Viva Connection, I think we're getting the maturity level on the right step so that we're able to actually start understanding, oh, now I get it. It's not just, cards with the links. This is really company communications and getting people connected to the company messaging.
So with the functionality that you're talking about there, are you seeing that with out of the box functionality, or are these custom built sort of adaptive cards and dashboard?
I think it's more on custom built cards and adapted connect, and which is a partner opportunity, and it requires some level of a investments. But again, the required investments is relatively small. So we're not talking about implementing the whole application, which is talking about, let's focus on the key scenario, what we have within, let's say, holiday or vacation application, because everybody has their own custom holiday application, unfortunately. So what is the key scenario? Well, request a date. Cool. Let's not implement the whole application again. Let's just surface the request feature within the mobile-friendly way. And voila, we have providing value with a significantly less investments than let's say, migrating the whole thing to work in Teams. So
and I think tackling it like that, in those specific use cases or those specific examples and scenarios is a really good way to to roll that and just continually add value to that type of thing too. Interesting. Very interesting. Now, you are everywhere. So for everybody that's sort of watching and listening, I mentioned at the start, you only need to go by one name, and that is Vesa. Where can people follow you and just keep in contact? You do a lot of community work and everything like that. So where's the best way for people to connect?
Yes. Well, traditionally I would have said Twitter, but I think X is, we can see X is slowing down quite significantly. Now that you can no longer, I'm so sad that you have to register to be able to even follow up on the discussions. It's so sad. But again, I think LinkedIn is getting better and better. And you find me in LinkedIn, obviously we do a lot of messaging in LinkedIn. There's community focused and community pages where we are sharing stuff in LinkedIn. We do have our Microsoft 365 community calls. And all of this stuff, if you go AKMS community /community/home, you'll find a lot of assets, community calls, YouTube videos, people to follow, and all of that stuff. And I think last week we had 3 community calls. Unfortunately, not a suitable time for Australia because it's complicated to get people to speak on AVAX time. And I do if only we would have a one time zone within a world. But we had more than 1,000 people attending live community calls last week. So it's a really huge numbers, and that sums up within a year quite massive numbers. And it's cool to see that people feel value out of those calls. And then all of the calls are recorded. If you're missing them 24 hours, they get published in the YouTube channel, and all of the individual demos are getting published in the YouTube channel as well. So we're trying to really build this kind of a content engine and a content train where anybody can sign up for the demo, and they get a lot of value. They get the community call, they get the YouTube publishing, all of that stuff. So like in your case, Daniel, you have your brilliant YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribe on Daniel's YouTube channel. But not everybody has their own YouTube channel and their own opportunities of exposing what they can do, or they're not willing to do. There's no time for do that. So with our community channel and community calls and everything else, we want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to present and also gain value out of that by us as a Microsoft publishing and then promoting their demos. So really giving it back again on the community. So,
but what it does do, I mean, it's an amazing channel, because what it does do is it does open up, and I watch it regularly because it opens up your mind as to different possibilities. People come at it from different angles, and there's different technology, there's different scenarios and things, and it just, I mean, I'm one that sort of learns by watching and understanding how other people are doing things. So it's really valuable.
And I have to say, you said that I'm everywhere and doing everything, but technically I wouldn't want to do that. So my that's not my dream job. My dream job is actually to fade away on the background and hopefully let other people to shine and be in the podium. I've been super shy. I have a massive imposter syndrome. It's never been about me being in the front and center. Never wanted to do that. But then again, I think the value comes when we start amplifying others, and we start amplifying other people in the community and putting everybody in the podium who are sharing and giving back. Because then, let's face it, when we build stuff together, we're so much stronger, and we get so much ideas, as you were saying, from the other people presenting and doing demos and all of that. And then we get those ideas and sparks and inspiration, and we build massive, cool amazing ecosystem together.
Yeah. Well, been another great chat, mate. So it's I always enjoy the conversation. It's probably time for you, or you've probably already done it, to go for a walk with your dogs and post your video. And
so heading after this one. So
very good. All right, mate. I'll let you go. But once again, thanks for jumping in and another great chat.
Absolutely. Thank you, Daniel, for having me. Really cool to chat.